All right, so we're right at 10:03. So we're going to go ahead and get started so we can get the ball rolling and get some questions and some dialogue in. To introduce myself, I'm Savannah Popcorn. I'm the administrative director here at Emerald Cove Day Camp, as well as Yosemite Sierra Summer Camp. If we've talked, it's usually been over the phone or via email. But I am just so excited to have you all here to just have good conversations with some directors. So just to give you some logistics, right now we are in a webinar in a setting. So I will go ahead and click off in just a minute to introduce our two directors who will be speaking, but they will be speaking for a little bit over half of the time during our time today, and then we'll do questions at the end. So if you have any questions, please go to the bottom of the screen on Zoom to Q&A and just send your questions in, and I will be reading them off, and they'll be anonymous as well. I'll be reading them off at the end of our discussion, and if you have any questions during that time too, continue to use the Q&A. And we also will have links to share, and we will put that in the chat. So just kind of keep an eye on those two, the Q&A and the chat. And also just to remind everybody, this is a recorded webinar, just so we can share it with you in case you wanted to rewatch it and write down some things or share it with a friend. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, so without further ado, I would love to introduce our two directors. So we have Sara Kuljis, owner and executive director of Emerald Cove Camps, and associate director, Jessica Peterson. And so I'm going to go ahead and click off and give them the floor. So just bear with me 1 second. And here we go.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
I'm Sara Kuljis. As Savannah mentioned, at camp, we don't go by regular names as staff members. We all have camp nicknames. So campers know me as Salsa.
Yes, and I am Jessica Peterson, also better known as Sprinkles, and have the joy and privilege of working at camp for many years. I've gotten to be full-time on staff for about 4 years. With summer seasons, I spent being a camper, as well as the rest of us, and then about 6 summer seasons on summer staff. So it's a joy to be here this morning. Well, like Savannah said, we are excited this morning. We're excited for the opportunity to spend a little time with you guys. Mornings on the Porch, this is our first inaugural Mornings on the Porch meeting, and so we're enthusiastic. This space really came to be out of a conversation that Sara and I found ourselves having quite a few times, which was really just, man, we long to be able to connect with parents in meaningful ways. And, in a way that not always emails or blogs can convey. We long to just have conversations. And so through the gift of Zoom, here we are this morning trying this out. So welcome. This morning, we are diving into the topic, why is camp great for kids? And as camp professionals, we believe wholeheartedly in this. We believe that camp is great for kids, but as we have talked with parents over the years, we want them to know this is not just an idea that we have, that we think camp is great. There's actually loads of research-based evidence, plenty of years of anecdotal truth and evidence as to why camp is great for kids. And the reality is, it's not just that camp is great for kids in that moment, although they have lots of fun, and we love having them for the 2 weeks that we have them. But camp is great for kids for much longer, and a lot of research shows that the learning and growth that campers experience actually stays with them for much longer than just those 2 weeks. And even just that year, it stays with them often for a lifetime. And so you'll see on our website, the first thing that it says is 2 weeks that last a lifetime. And that is not just some fun marketing slogan that we have. That is actual fact, that is truth. And so we're going to talk about that for just a little bit this morning. So I do want to share just a little bit of research, and then we'll go into some of the ways in which we see camp benefit kids. So there was a 5-year research project done as a youth impact study that was commissioned by America Camp Association, ACA. And it was conducted by the University of Utah. And it was a project that was really focused on the lasting impact of camp. And it, surveyed lots of different data groups. There's camps and campers, parents, even staff, alumni, and it was across many different backgrounds and demographics across the country, various campers, ages, race, gender, socioeconomic status, faith-based camps, secular camps. So lots of different types of camping experiences. And across all of those different types of camping experiences, they really found 3 prominent findings. And so I just want to share those with you this morning. The first one is that campers who attended camp really came away growing in their ability to live in the moment. And so campers really experienced at camp the opportunity to live in the moment. And well-run camps give the opportunity for structure, they give the opportunity for predictability, and they provide this space of really safety and security. And when that is gifted to a camper, they don't actually have to think about what comes next, right? They don't have to think about what they just did. They get to just rest in the moment, knowing that camp is taken care of, that they are held, and that they can really, be present in the moment. It gives them the opportunity to participate in a type of mindfulness and well-being that goes with them far beyond those 2 weeks. A second finding that they had was campers that went to camp, they experienced an increase in relationship and social skills. And we're actually going to talk about this a little bit more as we talk about what we have seen anecdotally at camp and the benefits that kids experience, and even some of the ways that YSSC campers have reported growing in their social skills. But camp is a unique context where kids get to meet new people, make new friends. Some of them come with friends and grow even in their ability to not just meet new people, but keep those friendships. They get to learn to live with people that are different from them. It is a good experience. And so across the board, kids report growing in their relationship and social skills. And lastly, one of the findings that this study produced was kids growing in their independence, their responsibility, their confidence, their perseverance, and their self-reliance. Man, don't we all long for youth to grow in those areas? Those are important outcomes. And of those outcomes that they list, some of those, responsibility and perseverance, self-reliance, confidence, this study really found that those outcomes were specifically distinct and transferable. And what they mean by that is that those outcomes are distinct to the camp context, which means that those kids really learned those things or grew in those ways. In the distinct camp context. They learned it in a way that was different than how they would have learned it maybe at school or at a youth, sporting program or whatnot. That camp had a distinct environment that really grew them in those specific ways. And then secondly, that they're transferable, right? They're not just about how to succeed at camp, although growing in those things really does help them thrive at camp, but it's so much more than just their 2 weeks at camp. It is transferable to when they go off to college. It is transferable to their first job and in all the years to come. And so those outcomes are huge and really special that campers get to come away from that. And those things really last a lifetime.
For me, I'm a total research nerd. I love research. I always am diving deep to say, what did we learn from that experience? And then how can we improve and be even better moving forward, kind of across the board? And I really believe that this American Camp Association research is helpful, especially in 2 ways. One, it helps us as parents sift through the dozens of opportunities that are available to our children in the summertime. A lot of times I have 2 kids in college and one who's out of college and adulting out there in the world in ways we're really proud of. And, but man, when they were younger in elementary school or middle school or high school, trying to figure out, should they be in summer school? Should they be in this traveling sports teams? What shall we fill their summers with? Knowing this research for me really helped my husband and I consider, what are the gaps in our kids' learning? What ways do we really want them to grow this summer? And perhaps this summer they just take a small, shorter summer school class, but we really want them to be growing in character in these ways. And camp is the ticket to do that. We had a camper once at camp who was very accomplished volleyball player on all kinds of travel teams, even at a very young age. And she learned, and her family learned quickly, that while she could do travel volleyball for the whole summer, she found that she was a better teammate, a better captain, a better human if she took time out of that rigorous sports schedule to get a couple of weeks of camp in. Soon her coach saw that too, and he blessed her time at camp throughout the many years she was a camper. So that information is helpful for parents. Second, that research is really helpful for those of us who operate camps, because as we learned really in concrete ways and measured in concrete ways how camp is benefiting kids and growing kids, we can be even more proactive in designing programs and training staff to exponentially increase that growth. So that's been good for us. And we continue to find ways to hone debrief sessions, to plan activities in a way where kids see their own growth and can name it. So if you are a research junkie like me, I'm going to ask Savannah to pop in a link into the chat, which is just an infographic from American Camp Association about those research findings. And while she's doing that, I would like to roll a little bit into some more of the benefits that we have seen at camp all through the years. I have had the privilege of being the executive director for 25 years now. Prior to that, actually, my parents started Yosemite Sierra Summer Camp when I was 10 years old. So I grew up going to camp, working at camp, and having the privilege of going to other programs as well. A couple of our favorite benefits to campers are, well, one in particular is I love that campers have the opportunity to unplug for 2 weeks at YSSC. Many camps, most quality camps, are no tech camps. So campers arrive without a cell phone, a smartphone, without laptops, without screens. And for the first time in a really long time, they can't pick up that screen as soon as they're bored. They can't grab that phone if they're anxious and want to know what's happening and what they're missing out on. They don't have to worry about how many likes they had on their post. They actually really start living in the moment. And that eye-to-eye friendship, it just explodes because that phone's not there. They also see staff not using their phones and technology. That no tech experience is one of the healthiest things that I think camp gives campers, and numerous campers every single session as they're getting ready to leave camp will say to us, man, I'm kind of sad I'm going back to my phone. It's been so nice not to worry about it. I'm going to see how long I can go without getting addicted to it again. I will say sometimes a camper is a little anxious at first to go without their phone. And usually we see within about 48 hours, they have exhaled and that need to have their phone with them is gone. And we really get all of them. Another benefit that we see all the time at camp and growth we see at camp is around confidence building. You know, kids learn differently away from their parents. They get to stand on their own 2 feet in new ways. And confidence and self-esteem doesn't come from pats on the back. Good job. Confidence and self-esteem comes from mastering skills. And whether a 9-year-old chose their outfit all by themselves, or remembered to brush their teeth without being asked by their counselor, or maybe a 10-year-old made it to the top of that climbing wall and said, I didn't know I could do that. Or maybe a 15-year-old comes back from their 3-day backpack and says, Salsa, that was really hard and it was worth it. And I'm really proud of myself. Camp offers so many opportunities to try new things, to push themselves, to realize that they can do it. In fact, we do surveys every session with our campers. And just last summer, over 70% of campers reported it was true or very true that they gained courage and confidence during their session at YSSC. Another character trait that I'm crazy about that we see is built at camp is resilience. That muscle of grit that says, I can work through hard things. I can hold things when it's uncomfortable until it's comfortable. And, sometimes at home, I have been the parent that wanted to spare my child of too much challenge. But at camp, again, we learn differently than at home. And for kids to realize that they can do hard things, or they can do new things, or they can do things that are uncomfortable until they're comfortable is a tremendous gift to them. It's that try again muscle. It's the I didn't get a bullseye today at archery, but I'm going to go back at free time and try again. What a fabulous muscle to build for them as they head back for their summer and they head back into their next year of school. So courage and grit are some of my favorites.
Yes. Yeah. You can tell we feel passionately about these things. A couple of other benefits, and then we will head into some questions because we want to hear from you guys. One of the benefits of camp is getting the opportunity for kids to really practice those friend making and friend keeping skills. And the research, touched on this, that kids really grow in this at camp. But we really see those 2 skills as unique skills, as distinct skills, friend making and friend keeping. And so a lot of our program and our model of our small family, our small cabin size really lends into kids getting the opportunity to grow and practice those friend making and friend keeping skills. So many of our campers, come with a friend or 2, but about 25% of our campers come solo. And so we have a very intentional process of building cabins. And that's one of the joys of our smaller numbers and smaller ratios is we get to spend a lot of time reading through all of their material and making these little families that we long to see success in. And so we have campers that come from different cities and different schools and have unique perspectives and experiences. And that little cabin gets to family make for 2 weeks. And some of our parents, drawing from their own experience with their kids, trying to get along with their siblings. Some of our parents, worry about, disagreements that might come about or get along skills. And we actually love that. It's a very learning how to get along with people that are different from them. That is essential for growing. And so, we don't leave them alone to do it and figure it out by themselves. We have dedicated and thoughtful, consistent staff members that are in those cabins with them, that stay in the cabins with them and coach them on how to really work through maybe disagreements, learn how to ask for forgiveness, learn to think of others ahead of themselves, maybe even small things like learn to wait their turn, especially how to affirm another friend. That is huge. And so, we actually, the same survey that Sara mentioned earlier, all of our campers get the opportunity to kind of report on their growing. And actually 76% of our campers last summer said that it was either true or very true that because of their time at YSSC, they feel like they've learned to become a better friend. And so from their time at YSSC, they grew in their friendship skills, and that's huge. And then they get to take that home with them and practice that in the school year. Another benefit at camp that we have touched on is the wholesome and cool role models that they get to experience in our staff. Guys, they think that our staff hang the moon. Kids naturally look for heroes and role models through their development, whether it's in teachers or coaches, youth leaders, whatever that looks like. Kids are naturally seeking out those people. And at camp, we spend so much time all year long, pulling in, hiring, training, coaching these young adults to be incredible role models for your kids. And so, your campers get to experience and see role models that are grounded and patient and joyful, caring, honest, and just a lot of fun. And so, campers love the staff, and 94% of our campers last summer said that they liked and felt cared for by the staff. That is a percentage that we are proud of. That is a meaningful thing. They love the staff, and staff get the opportunity to invest in your kids. It is special. And then lastly, the last benefit I want to make sure we touch on is the opportunity for kids to really grow and develop in their faith. YSSC is a non-denominational Christian camp. And so our hope is that every camper comes away with an experience of God's unconditional love. And so we have lots of things throughout the day in our program dedicated to their faith formation that gets to grow them in the basics of faith. And so, we have interactive Bible studies, and we have engaging guest speakers, and we have campfires and topical seminars, all the joys of camp. As well as just teachable moments throughout the day, where staff get to really invest and reflect and ask questions and really get to nurture every kid's faith. And so we love that about camp and the ways in which camp offers a unique setting for kids to really make faith their own. So those are just a few of some of our favorite ways that we get to see camp benefit and grow campers for their life. So we are going to head into our question and answer time. Savannah, I know you've been collecting all of the questions that have been submitted throughout our time. But I want to make sure Savannah's going to post our ebook in the chat. It's a link to our ebook, and it just goes through a few more of the ways in which campers grow during their time at camp. We have a few ebooks, and so this is one that we want you guys to have. So at any point, just make sure you click on that in the chat. Otherwise, Savannah, why don't you lead us into some of the questions we've received?
Absolutely. So I'm going to keep you two on the screen. I'll just be the voice from above speaking. But just a reminder for those who joined on kind of in the beginning of our conversation, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A. It'll be at the bottom of your screen, and that way that we can give them to Sara and Jessica. But I have a couple, so why don't we just jump right in? First question is, do you think sleepaway camps are better for children than day camps?
That's a great question. And I would say it depends on the program, the quality of the program, and it depends on the readiness of the camper. When camp people talk about camp, we typically are describing an environment where community is being built, friendships are being formed, and there's skill building as well. There's learning new skills is going on. So when I think of day camp, I'm thinking of a full experience, not necessarily like a computer clinic or sometimes I'm learning maybe about, it's a soccer camp, and I'm learning some drills, but I may never meet the other campers and get to know them as well. So we also have a day camp in addition to Yosemite Sara Summer Camp. It's called Emerald Cove Day Camp, and it takes place in San Juan Capistrano. It's for kids 5 to 10 years old. So which is better? If you, as you explore camp experiences for your campers, I think it's important to find out, are they accredited by the American Camp Association? I think it's important to find out what their mission is. Are they looking at growing a whole child? I would get feedback, references from families who have been involved with those programs. And then after you identify that quality camp, to say, is my child most ready for that? And there are some kids who, YSSC, our youngest campers are 8 years old going into 3rd grade. That may not be a time that every 8-year-old is ready for that. In fact, next month, during next month's Morning on the Porch discussion, we're going to be talking about, is my camper ready for camp? Is my child ready to go away to a sleepaway experience? So mark your calendar for February 22 and join us for that. But I think, if a camper, your child has been asking to go. If your child has been wanting to have a little more opportunity to make some of their own decisions and try new things, but you want to make sure that it's in a safe and nurturing context with lots of supervision, then they may just be ready for sleepaway camp. And that might be their best space. If their campers may be wrestling with being away from home still, or you've got some busy, important evening things happening during, that time of the month, then maybe a day camp experience is sufficient for them. But I would actually involve your child in the conversation and help them learn about the program, show them videos, have them talk to people who've been. And very often a child will reveal which program is better for them. So it takes a little digging to find out which is best. Both can be fantastic experiences for kids. Would you add anything else?
No, I think you covered it all. Yeah,
Okay.
we love both programs. We have both, and it really just depends on the child. So we'll get to talk more about that next month.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Next question. So this question is, we haven't been able to talk to any of our son's friends into coming into camp this summer. Is it harder for a kid to come to camp alone?
Yeah, yes. And you can add anything at the end, but yeah, so as I mentioned, the practicing friend making and friend keeping benefit, so we have about a quarter of our campers that come without a friend, and so that's a common experience, and we work with parents and campers all the time. I alluded a little bit to our intentional cabin formation process and what that looks like. Here's a little peek into our process in the summertime. Is Sara and I reading through every single camper profile, and so here's a small plug for filling out forms that you will receive later that asks intentional questions about your kids' likes and hobbies and experiences, anything that they're coming into camp with, and we ask that because we are actually reading up on every single kiddo, especially those ones that are coming alone. And so as we're forming those cabins, we're really asking ourselves, oh my gosh, the camper profile that you're reading loves soccer, is so sporty and is invested in that. Oh my gosh, well, that's this kiddo too, and it's the same age and grade. Well, let's put them together. They'll make happy, fast friends quick. And so we get to do that. That feels like an honor and part of our process. And so we have a couple of best practices when it comes to putting together cabins. And one of those is that we never put a stag or a solo camper with a large group of friends, right? We always want to set up that kiddo to make friends well. And so whenever there's the possibility, we are putting that solo camper with one other solo camper, or even 2 or 3 other solo campers, so that they have the opportunity to make friends fast. And then when campers, maybe a large friend group comes together and all 7 of them want to be in a cabin, well, sometimes that can be fun, but the reality is it's a goal to be able to make new friends. That's some of the huge benefit that comes from coming to camp. And so oftentimes we will need to split those friend groups. And so we'll do maybe 3 and 3, and we'll make them kind of brother or sister cabins, and they'll get to see each other. They're the same age group and such. So they'll still get to do some activities and all of that. But that way we have the opportunity to introduce new friends. And so it's certainly a growing experience, and it's brave for someone to come by themselves, but we do everything in our power to really support that kiddo coming. And so we would say, rest assured, they will still, make friends.
Yeah. And I think that, it need to be realistic. It's going to take a day or 2 to feel at home, to know you're seen and you belong. And the way we program those first couple of days of each session, and the way that counselors and staff intentionally involve and include campers, if we're doing our job well, within about 2 days of a 2-week session, that camper knows they belong. For example, free time is scary time. We don't have free time, especially during the first 2 days of a session, because if I came solo, I don't kind of know who to connect with, but there's always a seat for me. And I always know where I'm going to be until I really feel at home in the space. And so those are just some of the things we do. We're gonna suck those kids in to the best of our ability, and usually by day 3, they are feeling good. Savannah, let's do one more question, and then I want to honor everybody's time today, and we'll go ahead and wrap up.
Great. I was going to say one more question and then I can help wrap up. But last question, this kind of goes with our no tech policy. If my child doesn't have a phone, or really, any way to connect with you as a parent, how do we know that they're doing okay?
Great question. I think especially for first-time families, that feels from my own experience, that feels really unusual and a little scary when my child is in a brand new place and I'm not there and not used to not hearing from them throughout the day. But our goal is not to have parents feel disconnected while their child is having a no tech experience. So parents are always very welcome to email daily or send snail mail to their campers, and we have mail call every day for them. But for campers, they are welcome to snail mail home as well. That may take, from a mountain community, 3 days to get that letter. But we do have a media team that takes photos daily and posts them on a secured portal for parents to see. And so we want parents to be able to see, oh, my child had crafts today, and oh, they played that big group game today, and oh, that's what their cabin looks like. I see that parent, that counselor, and now I know how to pray for them. I'm going to pray for that whole little cabin. So we want parents to see what's going on. We additionally, our office staff, and Savannah's in charge of that whole space, we are happy to answer any phone call from a concerned parent. I haven't seen them in the photos for a day or so, or I'm feeling uncomfortable. Can you check on them for me? We will do recons. The camper doesn't know that you called, but we will do recons and check on them and get back to you. We send out newsletters during the session to give you information. And really, again, our goal is that parents have a good sense of what's going on, even though their child is feeling very independent. And also, please know, if a child expresses a need, if we can tell a child is homesick or they express homesickness, for example, and it goes past day 2, 3, and it feels more chronic, and all of our strategies, and we have a lot, aren't successful at helping them feel at home, we will reach out to you and say, hey, this is what we've tried. We really want your camper to be successful. What input do you have to help them tackle this challenge? Or your child was anxious about that surgery your dog was having, and they just wanted to know, is the dog okay? We'll make that call and we'll get that news to them. So know that we mean to partner with parents the whole 2 weeks. It's one of the benefits of being a small camp, that we get to personalize those things while preserving a child's independent experience.
Yeah, one of my favorite parent quotes at the end of summer, we always ask for parents' feedback. We long for feedback. And so often, I can't even tell you how many times we get the feedback that parents, anecdotally are sharing. I was a nervous wreck, with my child leaving, and I checked the pictures every day, and I got the 2 letters that they bothered to, write in between their activities. And I was sure, that they had, injured themselves or sunburned or whatever. And they get off the bus and they're like, my child weathered the 2 weeks better than I did, And so that is very common, especially for first-time parents, to feel quite nervous about sending your babies to camp. And that is it's a very normal experience. But we partner with parents, and the kids usually do wonderfully.
Yeah. So thank you for your questions. And we hope that the Q&A time of our mornings on the porch with parents will continue to be a meaningful time. Savannah, why don't we throw it back to you?
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm still going to keep you guys on the screen just because as we're ending our time, if anyone wants to stick around and ask a question, we will be here for the next 5-ish minutes. But if not, please mark your calendar for February 22nd. That'll be our next mornings on the porch, and we'll be talking about, is my child ready for sleepaway camp? You'll receive emails, reminders, so I will be contacting you after this, so just keep that marked on your calendar. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us for our first mornings on the porch. It was super fun, and I hope you all got great information and are excited to share it with your friends or your spouse. And we just can't wait for more opportunities to talk with you all.
Savannah, can you just add, we're almost wrapping up our early bird discount.
Yes.
Can you mention that just so
are.
families will please take advantage of the savings?
Yes. So we have just passed the 1-week mark. So if you sign your camper up until the 31st of this month, you will receive the early bird savings of $100 off tuition. After that, February 1st, it is no more. So tell your friends, sign up if you haven't already, but it is something that you don't want to miss.
Fabulous.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
everyone have a great day. Thanks for joining us.